Hello everyone, definitely it's been a while, but back again. Took a little break off from the videos, kind of a summer vacation, a couple of weeks, and wanted to, back in a full swing. Just got back from a ride. It was really, fantastic, 34-mile ride, getting slowly in shape. I can see my calves are coming up again. And not like in a racing way, right? Because I don't race anymore. And I really, the question is whether I really raced before, right? I raced like 5 or 6 races in my life. But, it's just mostly for shape, aerobic shape, and just to kind of like feel good, around. And that's what I think of my love for the bicycle is, right? It's just, watching pro races and getting in shape on a bicycle rather than kind of being more involved in, super hardcore racing at the ripe age of 38, almost 39. So just wanted to get back into the swing with the videos and of course, 2019 World Tour race Tour De Pologne just ended, or ended more than just ended. It ended like a week or 2 weeks ago. But usually what is a fantastic race, right, with a very animated couple of stages in the mountains, just like this year was incredibly overshadowed this year by a horrible tragedy of Bjorg Lambrecht, one of the brightest upcoming stars in a world cycling peloton. I mean, the guy who this year really, came on super strong and was really in the top 3 at Flèche Wallonne, at Amstel Gold Race. He was right up there in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So really very talented, upcoming super talent out of Belgium, out of Lotto Soudal team. And it was just a freaky, horrible accident that happened on a super flat and great pavement on the 48th kilometer of a stage 3 of the Tour de Pologne. And, I'm going to have a separate video dealing with the whole thing and dealing with more of a commemoration of Bjorg and what should Tour de Pologne do to commemorate his passing. But, it just goes to show you how incredibly dangerous the sport is. And just my heart goes out to, the family, the fans, the cycling community, and, everyone that, knew or didn't know Bjorg around the world. It's just, it just goes to show you how dangerous this sport really is. One little accident, one little, not paying attention to something. And, especially, drivers in a car can really put you out for a very long time and kill you. I mean, I think every one of us had this, issue in the past of drivers not watching, what they're doing. So on that note, just really, incredible, and the deepest condolences to the family and friends of Bjorg and the cycling community. Just super sad and just kind of like a freaky accident. The race itself was kind of affected by everything that happened by the accident. Stage 4 was actually neutralized. The stage 4, which was like really important to the general classification, that included that brutal last climb up to about 20%, that averaged like 12.5% up to the finish up in Kościerz. So that was neutralized, but really congratulations to the race organizers that really took this to heart. I think a lot of fans, in Poland, and I think a lot of, organizers and, people that had anything to do with the race, ordinary people out on the road, were out with signs, and, there was a big commemoration on the last kilometer, first on the 48th kilometer of the neutralized stage, and then, of course, in the finish. And it was just some of the most beautiful images in cycling, right? The brotherhood that this people have, and in the community that cycling creates, was pretty amazing when they all came out at the finish line the entire team and commemorated Bjorg. It was some of the most stunning images that really, I have seen in cycling during the last couple of years at least. So the race typically is kind of has two parts, right? It's kind of a weird scheduling with the Tour de Pologne because it kind of falls in usually a week after the Tour de France, and on the week of Classica Sebastian, and also now on the week of Surrey London Classic. So typically you would have the stage racing guys that return from the break after Giro d'Italia, right? The Giro d'Italia guys that take off for the Tour and return in preparation for Vuelta. So you would have these guys, going to the Tour de Pologne. And also you would have guys that are sprinters, right? Typically sprinters go to a Tour de Pologne. And also you would have the guys that are still a little bit in a form from the Tour, looking kind of like for glory after the Tour, perhaps maybe an unsuccessful Tour de France, but certainly having 3 World Tour stage events, right? The 2 one-day classics, one of them famous, and then the Tour de Pologne in the same weekend is kind of weird because I think it really hurts all 3. Right? All 3, because teams have to split their riders, their starters to go everywhere else in 3 weeks, and it becomes a little bit of a mess up in a way. But just like in the previous years, Tour de Pologne, it did attract some of the really good sprinters, and this would be the first phase of this stage. First 3 stages usually end in a mass sprint finishes, right? Of course, Tour de Pologne is famous for those circuits, right? Luckily enough, they shortened the flat stages, right? From like 200 kilometers, it used to be like 230 kilometers long, but it used to be in northern Poland where like the landscapes were absolutely beautiful. And now what they did is they limit them to like 150 kilometers and they put them on urban circuits, right? And although the first stage was very interesting because it was around Krakow, really pretty city, really pretty landscapes, the next 2 stages take place in Silesia, very urbanized region, upper Silesia, perhaps not the best place to have a race. It's like the very Belgium, right? Very kind of like all over the place, roads everywhere. There was few crashes and not too bad. But unfortunately, the crash that took out Bjorg was just completely not a fault of an organizer. It was just a beautiful flat road, and I'll speak about what really happened in in a separate video. But then the second part of the stage race usually attracts the guys, is usually a stepping stone for guys that are preparing for Vuelta and for the young future stars, the young guns that are just about to step into the big show, big grand tours, right? The young stars of a main, world tour teams. And this year, of course, it was partly the same with Sivakov, right? And with Guggenhardt, right? The Ineos amazing duo, and of course with Sergio Higuita, which I'm really, really excited about to see him, how he does in Vuelta. Watch, because Higuita next to Sosa, right? Another Ineos rider, and EF education as Higuita. Those are probably some of the brightest climbing stars for the future. So it was really exciting to see Higuita do really well. I thought he was pretty much the strongest rider in the race because he created a gap for himself on stage 6, kind of going away from that little peloton of 6 to 8 riders. So he did get a 3-4 second gap. Now, of course, as I said before, stage 4 neutralization kind of affected the race. It became the race of few seconds. It usually is very tight for the Tour de Pologne because there's no time trial. But yeah, so that kind of affected the race very much for good reasons and for obvious reasons, it was neutralized. So the first part of the stages, we had flat stages, circuit stages, and we had some top sprinters involved. And Pascal Ackermann was there, Fernando Gaviria, who's preparing for, of course, Vuelta a España. We had Jakobsen, the champion of Holland there. We had Luka Mezgec, right, who actually returned from complete surprise and basically rode himself to the starting squad for Vuelta a España with kind of surprising 2-stage victories in the Tour De Pologne. We had a couple of guys looking for form. John Degenkolb was there, and of course Mark Cavendish was there too, amongst other sprinters too. But those were the main guys out there. And Pascal Ackermann won 2 stages, right? Gaviria was around. I think he grabbed the 2nd and 3rd place, but did not win a stage. But he was preparing for the Vuelta. Jakobsen won a stage, but then he got disqualified. And you know, Mezgec was completely surprising. He won the stage 2 sprint, which by the way was downhill. How often do you have downhill sprint stages? And I thought it was really interesting for the organizers to kind of keep that as a competition. And they were clocking the riders. It was a safe finish, by the way, not dangerous. Mezgec was, I believe it was 91 kilometers, which they claimed was the fastest clocked sprint finish in the world. Not sure if that is correct because the stat is kind of new. The competition is kind of new for Tour de Pologne. It was pretty innovative, but you know, we don't really have competition for the fastest sprint finish because a lot of the sprint finishes are super dangerous. But yes, he won the downhill sprint finish, right? And also he won a strongman finish on stage 5, which came after 2 or 3 hills. From about 90 men. So Mezgec usually is known for something like this, but he basically kind of got himself selected with those 2 World Tour victories to go to Vuelta, and we can expect only good things from Mezgec in the Vuelta, especially where we don't really see anybody with a super big name. The only one is Gaviria that's coming to Vuelta, so it's going to be interesting what Pascal Ackermann does. So the next part of the race is also the mountains, right? Typically 3 stages. This year was 2 stages due to, very unfortunate circumstances. But the racing was sad, but the racing was also very, very, very exciting. And it always is a breakaway type of catchback, attack again type of a stage races around the circuits in Bukovina. Beautiful, beautiful place right in the foothills of the Carpathian Tatra Mountains, which I think are the highest mountains in the Carpathian range, right? So it's basically a true style alpine mountains, but the race took place the opposite side to them, opposite to the town of Zakopane, which is kind of like a resort, very big resort town. In the kind of a plateau foothills of about 1,100 meters. And the course actually was, believe it or not, harder than Liège-Bastogne-Liège. I would compare it with a bit shorter. I'd compare it with a little bit more of a Classica Sébastien because the climbs are a little bit longer and of course it's higher elevation than Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Flèche Wallonne. So again, beautiful racing, and it was basically Ineos, and it was between Ineos, Bora, and Astana, who sent, of course, the strongest teams out there. And of course, Formolo had, Bora had Formolo, the new Italian champion, and of course he had a local favorite and one of the favorites to finish high up in the Vuelta, Rafael Majka. And Ineos have, had a fantastic team with Sivakov and Guggenheim, and also Ben Swift was surprisingly doing pretty well in the mountains. Astana, of course, had Iziger, right? Lopez was a big name for Astana, preparing for Vuelta. And of course, they also had Dario Cataldo, which is, another really good mountain goat. So typically the race went between them. We had, a couple of bigger names too. Diego Ulissi was involved there. Domenico Pozzovivo, of course, was there too. A couple of Sunweb guys. Who else was in there competitive? I'm trying to look. Pierre Latour, of course, the 2018 Young Jersey winner for the Tour de France. We had Diego Ulissi, I mentioned. We had Sunweb guys, Hindley, and Hamilton. But it was typically between Ineos, between Bora, and between Astana. Stage 6, which was the first super mountainous race of 160 kilometers, was won out of the sprint of a group of 3, which kind of took advantage of the other infighting amongst a group of about 10 to 15 riders that were left on the last climb. So everybody was kind of looking at each other, and the 3 guys, which was Vengrad, the Danish rider, Sivakov, which was just an issue of numbers for Ineos. They had great numbers in the front group, and then the 3rd guy was Jay Hindley. They kind of escaped, and it was basically 3 of them that got about 10 seconds, which proved to be the winning move of the race. Hikita came, the EF Education climber, the young gun came right behind him. He was 4th, and he got a little bit of a gap on the little peloton of about 7-8 riders, which included all the favorites: Maikas, Formolos, Ulysses, and so forth and so forth. So that stage was really amazing to watch, because just short hills everywhere, attacking everywhere. And of course, Thomas Marczynski of Lotto Soudal was out to gain something to commemorate Bjorg Lambrecht, and was out to get the mountain points and won the mountain jersey. Stage 7, it was another hilly stage, the last stage, and basically it was won by Mohoric Mate, right? Whom I'm expected to this year have a really good Tour de France, and it didn't turn out that way, right? I expected him to win, right? Those very strong men finishes, and never really pan out. But he's obviously on form now, because he won the last stage out of the solo breakaway, right? Winning it out of the solo. And, I was expecting him to go to the Volta España, but he doesn't look like he's really there. So he won the last stage. The overnight leader, Vanguard, right, is the Danish rider. Where is he? Vingegaard, Jonas, after seeing him, what he did in a stage 6, how much work he did and how he won, I was expecting him to kind of take it to the finish, to be competitive for stage 7. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for him. He dropped away early on a climb on stage 7 and kind of lost his yellow jersey and any chance to finish high up in the classification. So let me just touch this, because it's getting super dark. Now this is better, right? You can see me better now. So the final stage, again, attacks all over the place. At one point, there was a group that went out with Maika and Formolo, but that was, there was no cooperation there, and they got quickly caught. And there was a little peloton that was coming off of a final climb of about 17, 16 riders. and there was a breakaway of the riders up front, which included Brambilla Gianluca, Pavel Pojanski, the domestique for Molo and for Maika, and they were, and also Daniel Navarro, which actually is coming into a form right now for Katusha. He's going to be riding in the Vuelta. We'll see how he does. But once Matej Mohoric was gone, he was absolutely gone. They never chased him. They never got time on him, and he won solo in Bukovina. Yeah, it was in Bukovina, right? Let me see. Yeah, solo in Bukovina. So basically, Sivakov, because Vingegaard dropped off, Sivakov won the race by literally 2 seconds from Jay Hindley and 12 seconds from Diego Ulisi, followed by Hikita, right? Watch that guy in Vuelta, I'm telling you. Guggenheim, Hart, Tao, in the Ineos guys, they have huge talent. Pierre Latour was 6th, Davide Formolo 7th, Christoph Hamilton from Sunweb 8th, Mike Carafa 9th. Then it was Izagirre and Pozzo Vivo, and also James Knox was there in a 10th place. So again, really exciting race. Kind of weird for the timing of it, right? Also kind of weird for those first 2 stages, which should have taken place a little bit more, I felt, in the countryside, instead of kind of like a boring kind of an urban circle, which is like full of concrete, and it's really an urbanized area of Poland around Katowice. So I thought maybe to show a little bit of a better landscape, they should have gone in a different region. But certainly a stage 6 and stage 7 proved to be beautiful, and proved to be an amazing racing with a worthy winner, Pavel Sivakov. So we'll see how this guy's doing at Vuelta. I'm expecting Hikita to actually do really good things out there. Lopez and Nieve were training, right? Since Domenico Pozzovivo crashed, so he's out of Vuelta. So we'll see how, Izagirre, guys like Izagirre, guys like Pierre Latour, guys like Guggenheim will do, which actually I think because Geraint Thomas is not going to Vuelta, is going to lead the Ineos team. But of course, I have to admit the race was incredibly overshadowed by an unexpected and truly tragic death of Bjorg Lambrecht. And again, my heart goes out to his family and the entire team and the cycling community and everybody that knew him, followed him, and didn't know him but appreciated his talent. On that note, stay tuned for a video about the crash and how to commemorate Bjorg. And stay tuned for the other races. I'm going to be doing a preview, a big preview of the Vuelta a España and a daily coverage of, of the last Grand Tour. And hopefully you're enjoying the videos. If you like them, hit like, of course, subscribe, comment below. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.